Yes, hello, and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that leans into the fact that we are everywhere. We are legion, as some people like to say. I haven't done a from X to Y for the intro, you'll be relieved to hear, so let's just throw it over to from Perth to Perth. It's Paul who's in Perth.
Yeah, that's quite a lazy one, Gav. But yeah, great to be here. Nice to be back on. It's been a little while. So yeah, looking forward to a good chat.
And all the way from the valleys, it's Ian in Wales.
Well, I wouldn't say Cardiff is the valleys. I think that would offend both people from the valleys and people in Cardiff. Funnily enough, they're quite proud of that little identity. It's lovely and sunny here, but freezing cold. I mean, like you would think, oh, it's looking up in the 20s out there. It's like 6-7 degrees. It's freezing, but I'm nice and warm here, and all the more warm for the company of you guys and the people in the chat.
It's pretty warm here. Spring is sprung. A few days into spring, 27 degrees, glorious sunshine.
No one wants to hear about that, Paul.
Can't complain at
we all. Want misery.
Well, hello to everyone in the chat. How you all doing? I just put up a couple of comments there from people saying hello. Good to have yous. Good to have yous. All right, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about this stuff. We'll do a little bit on internationals and then some pressers. Briefly touch on the VAR channel and Celtic TV developments, which are quite exciting. Well, you can be the judge of that. We'll touch on the Sevco soap opera and, of course, preview the Hearts game, which is what this show is supposed to be about today. And close it out with a little bit of Celtic socials. How does that sound? Does that sound like something you can get your...
excellent, Gav. Sounds excellent.
Look, we have some people saying hello from Twitter. Do you think these are all your peeps, Ian?
Yeah, I recognise some of the names, so thanks to folk for popping in.
We will be dealing with the AJ contract extension talks. Don't you worry about that, as they say on another famous channel. Don't worry about that. What's that from? Paul. You're a fan of the channel.
I don't know. No idea.
It's Celtic AM when Hamish has his wee friend on, Stevie.
Oh, Stevie, of course. That is a Stevieism. Of course it is. Sorry.
All right.
Should have picked up on that.
International break. Let's get into it by doing this. And England managed by an Ireland international, 1-2-0, thanks to goals from 2 Ireland internationals. Didn't they? Rice and Grealish. Don't know if you saw that. Wasn't much fun, was it?
You could have written it, right? It's typical.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Declan Rice, I said this before, but I'm not the biggest fan of Declan Rice. I don't know. I just don't get a good impression of the guy. Jack Grealish seems like a thoroughly decent guy in anything that I've seen. I know people will say maybe it's like he's PR or stuff like that, but he seems to do stuff when it's off the cameras as well. So not having any allegiance to either team, like, you know, I can't criticize Jack Grealish from doing well. I think he's one of the more decent, less arrogant ones of that team, and he seems to have grown up a lot from. Was he the one with the dead grannies, or was that was someone else? Was that Stephen Ireland? I can't remember.
No, Stephen Ireland was
someone claimed that their granny died 3 times.
That's right, he was the dead granny. Forgot about Stephen Ireland. Good player in his day. No, Greeley seems like a decent guy, but I really look forward to taking points off his beloved Villa. Breaking his heart. That'd be good, wouldn't it? There's Monty is giving us a rundown of who's on the show as ever. Hopefully Monty's in slightly better form than he was over the international break. Don't know if you saw. Monty was maybe a bit less than chuffed by our spectacular original content, talking to CSCs past couple of shows, but lots of other people enjoyed it. Did you, Paul?
He's also renamed Ian as well, so that was interesting.
He's also what?
He's renamed Ian. He's got
Yeah,
Dano in there.
He's misidentified me, but
Mistaken identity. Have you got X-Man underneath that desk, mate?
No, I think maybe I just look like a Korean DJ. Maybe that's what it is.
There you go, Monty. You've made a boo-boo and you've been picked up on it. So you see, nobody's perfect. Don't go removing the speck from your brother's eye without first seeing the log in your own. Get all biblical on your eyes. Okay. Right. Let's keep it moving. This is a ridiculous thing. Kevin Kelleher's back in the news. Did you see this? Celtic favourites to sign Liverpool goalkeeper at the end of the season. Is this just nonsense?
No, that's clearly a sort of like, right, we're light in content. Is there anything we can just bash out and put out for some engagement? And they're like, oh yeah, what about that one about the goalkeeper? Completely ignoring the fact that, you know, Kasper Schmeichel's had an outstanding start, done well for Denmark as well. I think he's broken an international clean sheet record. And obviously we've got a contingency plan underneath that. So I very much doubt, you know, would be interested in that anytime soon. This looks like recycled clickbait to me.
Aside from the fact that he's 25 million quid's worth, which we're never going to pay for anyone, never mind a goalkeeper.
Yep. Not much point spending time on it, I think. Let's turn it back to matters Scotland. Scotland lost again, twice. Did any of you watch those games? Are you upset by it? Do you don't care?
I certainly didn't watch it. Like, I'll get up in the middle of the night to watch my beloved Celtic, but I'm not going to get up in the middle of the night to watch these idiots unless it's an actual meaningful game. I got up and I watched a few of the Euro games, although probably wished I hadn't. This is classic Scotland. Yeah, look, we've moved up a level in the League of Nations, and predictably enough, we've come unstuck. The Poland game's a farce. To give away 2 penalties at home and give a team that kind of start, drag yourself back into it, and then in injury time, it's just the same names. Why is Grant Hanley still getting picked for Scotland?
I think the thing as well is, and I have to caveat this, I didn't watch it. My rule now is, unless it's a major tournament, I'm not suffering anything that Steve Clarke is putting together. It was bad enough, you know, in the major tournament. But you look at like someone like Yamal for Spain, right? He's 16. They've got no problem calling him up and putting him in. We've got Clark talking about, we'll try and manage Doken. We've got Lennon Miller, who's like got so many senior appearances, and you know, people are, you know, having him as the next big thing. He's in the under-21s making his debut as opposed to being anywhere near. We've got decent players that will be the future generation, but he's too old school and not willing to take the risk. So there's no even subplot of excitement. Like if you watch Scotland, like you're just watching a functional sort of defensively minded team. And I don't know how anyone actually really takes enjoyment out of it, because there's no, like I said, there's no like Doak or Miller that are coming in, you know, that might, you know, give you something to hold on to for the future. So didn't watch it. Glad I didn't watch them. No interest in it. So long as our players don't get injured, you know, happy for them to be called up.
Jurassic Clark, I heard. Quite good.
Fair enough. Well, and he also made Ian spot on, and he made those comments about Doak, saying, you know, he came on, he had a bit of a cameo, and he said, we'll, you know, he's a young lad, 18 or 19 or whatever he is. We'll drip feed him in slowly, and it's just like we haven't got the depth of squad to be drip feeding talented players, and like Lennon Miller, I think Ian obviously touched on it. He's had, I think, over 50 first team games for Motherwell, and he's only just getting blooded by the under 21s. It's exactly the problem we've got. If we were a country of 60, 70, 80, 100 million, then yeah, maybe you can pick and choose when you're going to drop these guys in, but we haven't. We've got a dearth of talent. Anyone that's showing any kind of promise at a young age, get them blooded at 21s as soon as you can, whether that's 16, 17, and then you push them through into the top squad, because the top squad's full of average players, journeymen that have been around too long. And Grant Hanley is just perfect example of that. And I'm not just picking on him. There's plenty of others. It's just a waste of time. That what's a classic phrase? Keep doing what you've always done. You'll keep getting what you've always got. Clark's had us punching above his weight to get us to 2 tournaments, but there's little point getting to 2 tournaments and doing absolutely zip when you get there. It's just pretty turgid. So yeah, let's get younger players through, and yeah, have a crack.
No, I'm by the way, I'm not suggesting chuck Lennon Miller into Portugal. What I'm saying is like we need to at least have these guys maybe on the bench or in and about the squad learning, not just in under 21. Doak though, like, if we've got to try and do something, if we're not going to put him in these games to get used to the pressure and to get used to whatever the system is and things like that, then what's the point of him even being there? He should be in the under 21s, getting game time. I don't know. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's an easy solve, but there's just nothing really there to kind of get excited about. There's just no excitement. The excitement is dead.
Let's move it on from Scotland because I'm not very excited to continue that particular subject. How about Paulo Bernardo? He scored for Portugal's under 21s, even though he's 22. It was a successful international break for the Benfica man who took to Instagram following it. The Celt shared a picture of himself in a Portugal shirt writing, albeit in Portuguese, "Another great win. We're still together." Nice to see, hey? Anything else from the international break catch your eye or tickle your fancies?
Well, are we going to talk about AJ? Because I think that's the only real thing of significance. I think everyone else came back with a clean bill of health, so I think that's good. Mm-hmm. That's all we really want. The only doubt is AJ, who Jesse March, the manager, said that he'd felt his hamstring and he'd done the same thing against France, so he trusted him enough to say, your body kind of come off. So I think it's good that AJ's got the presence of mind to take himself off before aggravating the injury. That's good. But maybe it is a concern for us. I don't know. Brendan's press conference is probably today, might be tomorrow, and then we'll find out.
Yeah, Scales didn't play for Ireland. Admita got some minutes in both games. Might have got a goal apparently. Didn't see that.
But, yeah, he did. He came off the bench. Japan, I can't remember who they were playing, but they scudded him a 5 or 6-0, and he scored. Ghosted in at the back post, scored a really good header actually.
Hatate didn't play either game, and there was some interesting comments around that. I think he said basically that the coach maybe didn't rate him, or he didn't manage to show his ability enough for the coach. But speaking a bit with Yato on Twitter X, he basically said, that Japan coach, no one likes that Japan coach. They think he makes mad decisions and stuff like that. And I think taking Hatate halfway around the world to not even let him get a bit of game time, and he did that with 8 players, So I think, I can't comment too much because I don't pay that much attention. But on the surface, if I was Hatate and I was doing that travelling to not get on, and especially with the form that he's in domestically, tough.
Well, Arnie Engels, our new guy, he got a game for Belgium in their 3-1 win over Israel on Friday night. I wanted to talk less about his international game and more about his presser. I assume you both saw his interviews, mainstream media and fan media. Well, what were your takeaways from that, Paul?
I thought he came across sort of really well, really mature, composed, relaxed. What is he? Is he 20? Is that what he is? 20 years old? And he talked a bit about he's had to grow up quickly. He left home pretty early. I presume probably Bruges wasn't his home. He went there first, and then obviously went to Germany pretty young, and obviously gone again here. So I just thought he looked like he had an old head on young shoulders. You're right. He's 21. He literally turned 21, I think.
Just at birth. That's why you always have to say 2 years. Do you remember we decided every footballer's 2021? That covers you.
Oh yeah, 2021.
26.
But yeah, I thought he came across really well, relaxed. And there was some. I think I don't know if I've seen the fan media one. I think I just saw the main press conference, but they were typically trying to trip him up by saying, "Oh, do you want to use this as a stepping stone?" And look what Matt O'Reilly's done and all that. And he just didn't. He didn't take them on. He didn't get tripped up.
Yeah.
And they circled back to it again and again. And like a lot of these mainstream media press conferences, the questions are shit and repetitive and downright dull. I probably will need to go back and watch the fan media one, because he's probably asked some more interesting questions than what he was asked in the mainstream. I thought he handled it well. Yeah,
I had a laugh at the Matt O'Reilly one and all the rest of it, and I think half of it is people being savvy enough to do it. But what I got from both the press conferences of McCowan and Engels was there was a big emphasis on work rate. Learning the system, that Brendan Rodgers had taken the time to speak to them about specific things. And I'm a bit kind of, sometimes when you hear work rate, it's kind of like the bare minimum. But I think there's a very much when they both were talking about it, they talked about it through the standards that are expected in order to get in the team, stay in the team, and maintain that way. And I thought it was really refreshing in terms of Engels, because sometimes you see players that go to other formerly big clubs that maybe have a deluded sense of self-importance, and they go about like, oh, we're going to win this and we're going to do that, and we're like they come across as arrogant. What I'd say is, in both of the players, they seem to have signed guys who've got their heads screwed on. Want to work hard. McCowan was talking about taking it really game by game and how he'd worked in that as a mentality wise. Engels, like Paul had said, talked about moving from home at a young age. So I think you never know, because you never know how players are going to adapt. But on the surface of it, it looks like two really strong, solid characters to add into a team full of strong characters. And I think that is probably one of our hidden strengths. Mentally resilient and kind of focused on the job in hand, as opposed to the hyperbole and getting dragged into the Scottish media nonsense.
Yeah, mainstream media, as John Clements says, just looking for a headline. Engels fairly media savvy. Luke, just a naturally good bloke. Go along with that. Interesting thing I thought about the Engels one is, the interviewer in the mainstream media one was asking him, so how important is the Champions League to the reasons why you came here? And he kind of swerved it, dodged it really nicely, or downplayed it. He said, Celtic, the club, was exciting for him. It's a step up for him. He wants to be at a club that has to win every game. He's looking forward to adding that to his locker. I mean, obviously in the fight for trophies. So he sort of said, Champions League, yeah, that's a factor. But he didn't go, that's why I signed for this club, which is what I think the mainstream media interviewer wanted to get him to say. In the fan media, he revealed that Clement told him it was a good move for him. And what's your man called from... it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get his name. Asked him, what kind of midfielder are you? Because in the mainstream media one, he said he was a midfielder. He said, but what kind are you? And he said, well, I can attack, I can defend, and I can box to box. So still no clarity on exactly where he's going to go.
It sounds like Petrov. That's what that sounds like to me. If you talk about, like, he's basically saying he's saying he's a box to box midfielder. I think if we're wanting like that Wanyama type that's going to be the defensive midfielder, I don't think we've signed that. I still don't think we've got that. Maybe Engels can do a job there, but it sounded to me like more like he's happy to play whatever role, and I think that's that's probably why Rodgers wanted him. He's probably technically good enough to play the different roles well, which is a big bonus for us.
And that's obviously what we've lost in Matt O'Reilly. Like that midfield trio they're all competent enough and technical enough that they can rotate between the three. Obviously, you wouldn't necessarily want to play Rio Hatate at 6 all the time. But if he finds himself the deepest lying player and everybody else has gone for it, he's absolutely capable of holding that position and keeping the shape to the team. So I think you're right, Ian. I think Engels has probably got it in his locker to play any of that. He's probably like what you would call a traditional 8, box to box 8. And obviously that's kind of how we it's how we were playing our two attacking midfielders last year. It does look like he's changed that up a bit, with one in Hatate going closer to join up to the main striker, more like a 10, I guess, and then the more of the box to box. So if that's the case, and he is going to oust Bernardo, which is what we think will probably happen, or those two will tussle for that jersey, then that will probably continue to be the case.
Do you know, I was thinking about that. Firstly, just going back, remember Matt O'Reilly actually filled in for Cal McGregor for about 10 games, and he did well there, so it could be the same scenario there. But I think what we'll probably see is more of a rotation for the things. Because remember, Bernardo always got his games in Europe, and I think that's because he's comfortable and the ball retains the ball. I wouldn't be surprised that, like, if we're going away, it's like Engels in there with Bernardo. But then if it's a home game, it's maybe Engels and it's Hatate. I think that's what we've tried to do with that midfield, and with McCowan coming in, depending on where we are, domestically, he might kind of come in for that as well. I think it's that sort of, I think we've got a couple more strings to the bow for Rodgers, and I wouldn't automatically think that Engels is coming in to displace Bernardo or Hatate and things. I think it's very much horses for courses, or horses for courses. I always get tripped up by that one. I don't want to be clipped and mercilessly ribbed on Twitter.
No, but that's one of the most fascinating things about this season, is seeing how these pieces of the jigsaw are going to fit together and what different combinations will work. And, will we settle on, a certain combination of three players, or as you say, will they come in and out quite a lot? But it's going to be fun to see it. The only other thing on the Engels interview was he pointed out that among our Champions League opponents, every team has a Belgian player except young boys. So he's looking forward to coming up against his fellow Belgians. So that was in the fan media one. So that's very interesting. On McCowan, very bright, natural kind of interviewee, wasn't he? He said when he was asked what can we expect from him, where's he going to play? He was like, happy to play 6, 8, 10. So, again, clear as mud, exactly what's going to happen. Interesting thing is that he has a mindset coach. Did you see that? Reminiscent of Matt O'Reilly, although his isn't in India. I don't know why Monty's pointing out that young boys are from Switzerland. I'm aware of that. But they're the only team.
I think he's getting confused with the Belgian thing.
They're the only team that don't have a Belgian player that Engels knows. That's in our
group.
Yeah, by the way, Gab, on the mindset thing, that was interesting because in both media interviews, they were both trying to get tripped up in different ways. I think what they were trying to get McCowan to do was act like the big man and come in and I'm going to establish my place or take my place or all this sort of stuff, or also spin that story of you're really lucky to be here. Is this like a rags to riches story and stuff? And I think he dealt with that exceptionally well, because he took it back to his coaching and he said, look, I think about it day to day. I know it requires the hard work, and then essentially we'll see where we be. He did admit that when he was in Ayr, did he think he could play for Celtic? That was always the ambition, but it didn't look likely at that point. But it wasn't out of reach if he continued to develop. And he talked very much about how that mindset would be the one that he would still bring into Celtic. So I can see why Rodgers has taken maybe the gamble on him, because I think it is a gamble because he's a standout in the league. But can he make that step up? But I think if Rodgers had the chat with him and he's talking about mentality, coach and stuff like that, from a foundational point of view, doing the stuff correctly, it's a safe-ish one. He might not have the ability, but it won't be for lack of trying, I don't think.
Absolutely, I think in $1 million, it's £1 million. Sorry, it's Australia. It's an easy decision, right? It was a pretty easy decision to take a top player from another part of the league, and I think a lot of people sort of being negative, saying, "Oh, you just pluck a player from the league and just going to sit on the bench." But I think you're right. I think you get, we're going to play, if we do even half decent in most tournaments, we're going to play close to 60 games, potentially more. You're not going to just play the same three midfielders all season regardless. So I think he will get a decent amount of game time, more likely in the league. And if that's the case, we know he's been a standout in the league, including against us. So there's no reason to say with better players around him every single day that he can't level up. Now, is he going to get to the level of a Matt O'Reilly? Maybe not. But who knows? You know, I think Rodgers. Remember, he said there's some players. I think it was talking about players moving on, and Matt O'Reilly specifically. There's some players that Celtic's not the end of their journey. They'll go somewhere else, and there's some players that Celtic will be the end of the journey. And you guess that Luke McCowan's probably one of those players that Celtic will probably be as high as he reaches, but he'd probably be happy to do that. He's 26, 27, and you know, if he wants to, just following Gav's rules, if he wants to sort of kick on and does, you know, if he does well, then he's potentially got a home for the rest of his career if he wants it. So I think it's a savvy signing. I was negative about it in the window. Come on,
I wanted to bring that up, Paul.
I'll come back. I was negative about it in the window, but that's when there was a concern that potentially we aren't going to get an Aaron Engels and, you know, pay decent money for quality. He absolutely fits the model when he's supplementary to build on the squad. Obviously, he fits the Scottish trained quota. He's a Celtic fan now. Yeah, we're not just going to buy players because they're a Celtic fan, but there's definitely a value if a player's good and to be in the squad that he's got the culture and the fan base ingrained in him already. We've got a few, but Carl's getting on. James, he's further down that, and really behind that, you've only got like Stephen Welsh and Ralston, which are really on the fringes. So that are sort of dyed in the wool Celtic fans. So another one being added to the squad, I think it can only be a good thing, and I think he's got an opportunity to really kick on. I certainly hope so.
Well, here's a comment underneath the video on YouTube. This is from Adidas Boy. I don't know if you can see that. I can make that full screen. He's pointing out that he said things like "hings," "fitba," and ended a sentence with "man." Keep the Celtic media training team away from this guy. This is what I want to hear. A real person speaking like a real person.
Well, I know that's not your burner account, Gav, because you're probably just triggered by the slightest non-RP pronunciation or something. Man, oh, we can't be saying man.
No, that's all absolutely fine by me. How dare you suggest I'm uptight about
I liked his self-deprecation as well when he made the comment about, you know, pulling into McDonald's and stuff. That I thought that was quite funny. You know, he was quite relaxed as well, and I thought he handled himself really well.
Right. Speaking of handling things well, do you think this is a step in the right direction?
Yes. So can I just say, because honestly, this has mini wound me up over the last like 12 hours. The amount of people that are like, oh, we need accountability, we need transparency, we need this, moan. This comes out, which is fully transparent. I know it's like there's an element of selective, right? Fully accountable because they're actually putting the mistakes in there. Like, you know, again, let's see how it goes moving forward. And then I'd be like, oh, well, look, they got that wrong and stuff. Some people are never going to be happy. And I think this is an example of some people are never going to be happy. This is a great step in the direction because we are seeing greater accountability. I think if you wanted to maybe even read further into it with Willie Collum, how do you change an institution that is maybe intrinsically a bit biased, that may have some Rangers fans who like to visit the Rangers pub and stuff? You bring a lot more stuff into the light, into the public domain, and then people can make the things. And bear in mind, this sort of thing, there'll be a couple of referees that won't like this, and they'll retire, and they'll go, and the ones that are afraid of accountability will go, and it'll get better over time. So for me, I think this is a massive positive step. I think, like, kudos to them for doing it. Is it perfect? Probably not. Will the proof be in the pudding at the end of the season? Definitely. But as a first step and as an initiative for being modern, being open, being transparent, I think on the face of it, we have to say, look, this is a really good first positive step. That's my opinion on it. And you're on mute, Gav.
Sorry, my son appears to be coughing a lot and perhaps vomiting in the nearby bathroom, but never mind. It's not my job to deal with that. Not when we're live. The VAR Review is a brand new monthly show that gives Scottish football fans a behind-the-scenes look at some of the big decisions made across the game, whether they're right or whether they're wrong, and how those decisions are reached. So it's going to be once a month, Paul. So, presumably most of the things they deal with, the ire will have subsided by the time the show rolls around. You would think. It's not in the immediate aftermath, but it's not mic'd up refs and mic'd up VAR, but it's a positive step, no?
Yeah, I think as Ian says, it's definitely a positive step. And I guess if you're hypercritical, which as Ian touched on, lots of people will be, is if it's only once a month and it's only a set time frame, there's obviously opportunity to be selective about what's included and what isn't. But you're never going to cover everything and you're never going to please anyone. So the very fact that this is even a thing is a massive step forward from where we were. You want refs and VAR to be accountable. You want that accountability to be in the public eye. So the fact that Colm, and I haven't seen this yet, I know it's on the list to have a look at, but the fact that Colm's gone in front of the cameras and is willing to sort of at least enter in a discussion on it's a huge step forward from the cloak, I was going to say cloak and dagger, but yeah, all the kind of behind the scenes stuff that, you never get anything previously. So yeah, I think, VAR's here to stay. Like, it's not going to go. The things that will make VAR better are the technology better. We've got a sort of ridiculously poor version of it. Better quality officials. And yeah, transparency and accountability. So, we're a long way from it being perfect, but it's certainly on its way.
And look, these guys, right, have never had the pressure to get better or to hide their bias or anything like that. This introduces an element of that. So I get that people are saying, because you watch this, Paul, but our one where Kyogo was taken out by the keeper and, it's wrong. And Willie Collum has said it's wrong.
Yeah, I saw that he came out and said that. So that's a start, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, they can't get that sort of thing wrong again. If they do, it's really bad for them. And it's not like they can just refuse to highlight one of those going forward, because then it's going to look even worse for them. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the increased accountability is going to hope to improve people, but I think you're also going to see the opposite with a couple of the poor ones that are just going to escape it, because it's going to be like any business, any organization. There are people who have a severe allergy to being responsible and accountable, and I think those people will go, and we'll see them start to drop off, and it'll become very apparent.
There's a bigger challenge around all of this, I think, in terms of how officials are approaching decision making in the game between this season and last season. We're seeing a massive shift. Last season, effectively, VAR was involved in everything. They were effectively re-reffing the match. So refs it didn't matter if a ref picked something up or not. They could just choose to let someone go and miss it, knowing that the VAR team will just pick it apart. And if they've got something wrong, or even if they haven't really, they'll still micro-analyze it and they'll make a different decision anyway. This season, they've taken... This is one of the things that kind of annoys me about this stuff, is they take a diametrically opposed view on it. It's going pretty much, we'll keep hands off with VAR. VAR, it has to be a ridiculously obvious error before VAR gets involved, and it's back in the hands of the referees. Now, the referees have got to switch back in terms of mentality. They've got to go, all right, I've got to be a referee again. It's got to be, ultimately, it's my decision. And that will likely be the decision that sticks. So that safety net of VAR is kind of taken away from them. It's still there if they make an absolute whopper, but if it's on the margins, it's not going to get picked up until one of these review shows. And as you say, and if that's coming up every show, that there's a glaring error or 2 or 3 glaring errors, and it's the same 1 or 2 refs, because there's not a deep pool that are making them, then you've kind of got an institutional problem at that point, and you need to try and fix it. So yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction. It's a long road to get it to how we'd all probably like it, but at least they're heading down the right path by the looks of it.
Also heading down the right path are our viewer numbers tonight, which are always boosted by Ian's presence with all his legions of fans on Twitter. 426 watching live. That's a fantastic number for little old us. So,
I mean, I would say, I wouldn't say legions of fans, and maybe what's the people that like the kind of self-abuse, because having to listen and read my tweets, I just can't see into the minds of those people. I mean, God love them.
Well, listen, for them, and for I think it's Monty in the comments who keeps asking, in just a moment, you're going to have to explain your toy collection behind you, Ian, but only after this message.
Hello all the Celtic fans. Here in France we love the Celtic world. C'est fantastique. Subscribe. C'est un fait accompli.
There you go. There's a little message for everyone to subscribe to this completely independent fan media channel. We're not owned by a newspaper. We're not worried about our press privileges being revoked. We don't get club access anymore. So there's nobody telling us what to do. We can even.
No, can I just say, just in that similar vein, feel free to like give us abuse for like our opinions and stuff. Just don't go over the line. Like I think is just alluding to a conversation with I can't remember the name of the huddle breakdown, is it? And Alan and stuff like that. Yeah. I think he took a bit of an issue with me saying that you can criticize clips, etc. What I would say is, for me, and I've said it to plenty of people, as long as you aren't too abusive. If I'm talking shite, or if any of us are talking shite, then please let us know, because it's all part of the discourse, isn't it? You don't have to be a dick about it, but yeah, Monty, you can. If I'm talking pish, feel free to say you're talking absolute pish.
Well, tell us some pish about your toys behind you quickly.
Well, first of all, not toys, Gav.
No, that was the question.
I feel like I've explained this before, so I think that's a sticker. That's one of Hoydie's stickers. I think most people will recognise that. I do collect some of the signed Celtic cards, which are those. And then these, before they became immensely popular, were Funko Pops. So they're kind of little pop culture sort of figures, sort of thing. So there's a couple of those. And if there's anyone who's paying attention to that sort of thing, there's a new game coming out called Funko World or whatever sort of thing. So they're only going to increase in popularity and make me look even worse. But I collected these before they were popular. I did. I'm an OG of it. So
Kaiser reckons you've got big boy toys in your dungeon.
Well, I mean, I'd be doing well if I had space for a dungeon, to be honest with you.
Not like Kaiser today to bring the tone down.
Never. Alrighty then, let's move it on. Celtic TV, big changes are afoot. Some changes are afoot. It's basically adding a lot more content to Celtic TV. Finally moving from the DVD world into the digital age, which is handy because nobody has DVD players anymore and haven't had them for years, by and large, except
the gamers do, Gav. We've got Blu-rays and the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox.
Well, new content includes a behind-the-scenes documentary, which we heard about when we were talking to our American cousins. Some of them were interviewed for soon-to-be-released behind-the-scenes documentary. So everything in one place: live football, exciting regular content, on-demand streaming, podcast content, as in their sort of podcast stuff. What's your favorite question, Ian, when you see that players about to be interviewed?
Is a Jaffa cake a cake or a biscuit? I felt I was being too harsh on Jerry McCulloch. So I'm trying to just tone it back and just highlight his questioning. And I will not rest until he one day asks a player if it is indeed a Jaffa cake, a cake or a biscuit. And when he does that, I'll retire it. But until that point, I'm just going to keep flogging that horse every single transfer window.
New feature-length content. Yeah, so there's going to be a ton more stuff. So again, I say we could come to the same conclusion, Paul, as we did with the VAR thing. A step in the right direction. Still a long way to go.
Yeah, I've been hypercritical of Celtic TV, and obviously, as those of us that are overseas, it's pretty much your season ticket. You pay a pretty hefty amount for it, and you get nearly zip content other than the games, and even them, the connection on some of them is less than great. And shortly after the last time we had a crack at Celtic TV, they then produced that brilliant video that was sort of rounding out the end of the season, which shows that they've got the capability to produce good material. I don't know what the issue has been up until now in terms of what they've been up to. That, you know, the interviews are pretty basic, and the match coverage, which is really Celtic TV, it should be for the overseas fan base, and it should be absolutely a million times better than it is, because you want it to be super slick on match day, because that's your way to, if you're paying the club money and you're not using a Fire Stick or whatever else, which fair enough, I can understand why people do that, but if you're paying club money and that's effectively your season ticket, it should be absolutely spot on every single match, and you should certainly be getting more content. I noticed one thing on the derby that really annoyed me is, because I don't know what the rationale is, maybe the providers, but there was no in studio punditry pre, post, or halftime. Like the biggest game of the season so far, and that's what was there. It was literally just a match, and obviously the pictures coming from you know, whoever the local broadcaster was, and then the Celtic TV commentary. I just can't get my head around it. Now maybe there's a contractual reason for that, but it just seems like Celtic have got enough money that they could pay a licensing fee to allow them to get over that mark, and to just have no pre-match content and no post-match content and no, not even a halftime sort of review is just absolutely piss poor as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it's a very small step, Gavin. Let's hope it gets a lot better quickly.
Yep, I see some people talking about the new site. I haven't looked at it myself. You know, this new beta site that they're...
It crashed the first time I went on it.
Off to a great start.
Yeah.
Off to a great start. All righty. Let's move it on then. Quick little bit about Sevco, if you don't mind. An evening with Philippe Clement. I'm
The
sure
Belgian waffle.
that was fun. The big news from that is Clement says the title fight is still on. And, I mean, of course, there's only 5 points between the two sides. So it's a fact that we're not out of sight, and it's incredibly early in the season. So that's not an unsurpassable total. I'm going to play your video in here. You give me a video for social media choice.
Sure.
But it fits here, so I guess we'll play it, right?
The tougher questions as well. He spent a lot of his time talking about the determination to win. This guy is mentality-wise a complete winner. Hopefully he can transform that into the team, of course, and then the rest of it was about feeling the emotions of the fans, which he does.
Wow, Ian, take it away.
You know, this I think it's Steely. I think, you know, I see quite a bit of him online, and he's kind of almost, he's on a descent to becoming like a Tommy Robinson acolyte. I think like Rangers are so bad that he's kind of now trying to go to the right wing sort of option, because I think that seems slightly better, more appealing than supporting Rangers. So I don't know what's happening there. But this sort of thing, you've got to laugh, because Rangers and Rangers fans are right experts at it. Clement or Baldy Beale was the one who was going absolutely wild at a 3-3 draw at the end of last season. That's not a winner's mentality. You know, when they're beating St Johnstone at home after a dodgy decision and a Hampden that's got one man and his dog there, he's taking the players over to celebrate with like a couple of fans. That's not a winner's mentality. So I think Rangers fans really like when people speak well and tell them the things that they think to be true, or like kind of hark back to the old days. And just long may it continue. I saw some tweet from someone who was like, oh yeah, Clement was talking about like his wife being there and like them loving Glasgow and how he really gets it, and like how they're both like fully committed, him and his wife. And I was like, they're the weirdest fans on earth. Some of the patter they come out with is just bonkers. So please, 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 you know, if our man Celia is watching this, please continue this delusion, because it's what keeps them at the level, and it's what's going to eventually get Beale sacked, because they're accepting this level and they're building him up into something that he's not. And then when he does get found out, it'll have the same meltdown. So, like, I'm happy about it at the moment. like we talked about our guys having the interviews and the way Rodgers speaks, we're on the right path, and they look as if they're just they're Pedro in the bushes at the moment.
Yeah, it is funny some of the things they say. I saw somebody else saying that, when he came out for the evening, he's tall and he was wearing a suit and he looked like the business, and he looked like the kind of manager you see on Champions League nights. And I'm thinking, what is going on here?
They'll grasp at anything. They'll grasp at absolutely anything. I was actually a bit concerned because as the window sort of came to an end, there was a real upturn in Hun posters that seemed to accept their fate. The Espanyolification stuff was rife. They were talking about the fact they were miles behind us. There was a real sort of wave of it really sinking in, the gap that's been created. But then fast forward 2 weeks, and that's in the rear view mirror again, and they've got something else delusional to fasten on to. And this time, I can't believe the event even went ahead. I'd have loved to be in a fly on a wall at that and to see the type of absolute idiots. Was it not 40 quid a ticket or something daft? Like, how is he getting a positive reception with the start to the season they've had? It's an absolute farce that they're. Yeah, it looks like they're reverting back to type, which long may it continue. If they start actually getting close to reality, then they'll presumably try and challenge the status quo. And that, as I said in a group chat a while back, like, you want him in play for as long as possible, just the same as you wanted Beale in play for as long as possible. Because if they keep swapping managers, there's every chance that just by sheer luck they'll drop on to somebody that's half decent. And so, let the mayhem continue with these pretenders. The one that's going around at the minute, which just seems another shooting in the foot that they're on, is the whole Tavernier thing. Like, the attempt by nearly both Rangers fans and Rangers leaning social media and mainstream media that seems to try and sell him before every other window closes, and it's now Saudi and Turkey seem to be the main one, obviously because Gio van Bronckhorst is at Besiktas. That seems to be getting touted. I'm almost starting to feel a tiny bit sorry for James Tavernier. Like, he's obviously not up to much, and he's definitely tailed off past his best. But complete lack of gratitude for what he's contributed to that terrible.
They've built him up to that level now, though, and you can kind of see he's. I think the problem for Tavernier, if he stays, is that fan base is polarized. There's half wanting to believe the Hall of Fame, like most goals, most assists, blah blah blah, all that patter, and then there's the other half that's that call him a serial loser and defensively suspect. So I hope he stays, because I think, like, mentally he looks shot, especially with that. I don't know if you saw the clip of the fan having a go at him. Like, I think mentally he'll be shot. So hopefully he does stay, because I think Clement will have to play him, and I think he'll just be a constant problem for them this season.
Yeah, well, the good news is they've got a newly anointed best things in sliced bread in Bahrami, or whatever his name is. Bahrami, their new signing.
Oh, the Albanian guy.
Yeah.
He's
because he's a world beater, because he's not played yet, of course.
Yeah. Did you see the Albanian English language account saying, like, what's the matter with Rangers fans? You're, like, celebrating Barami's work rate and crossing. Like, have you like, he basically said, have you declined so much as a club that you're getting excited by tracking back? And the first comment was, like, from a Rangers fan going, yes. And it was like 300 likes.
Okay. All right, well, look, let's worry about us. We have Hearts to contend with at the weekend. Why is this game important, Ian?
Every game for Celtic is important, to use that.
Why
cliche.
is this game particularly important?
I think, like, we've got to keep the lead. I think, like, that's good. Like, let's not let our foot off the gas. I think even though Hearts are, not in good form, and Naismith is under a lot of pressure, I still think it's like a difficult game for us traditionally. So I think we just need to be on point. But, the way that we've started and just the whole vibe around the club, I think if we do drop points, it's not going to be from not being prepared or a lack of effort. it'll be some other circumstance. So I'm confident that everything is in place to get the result we need. That's how I feel about it. I'm not too apprehensive about it. Speak to me 15 minutes before kickoff, and it might be different. But for the moment, I'm pretty zen about it.
Paul, would you not say this game's important because momentum going into the Champions League? That would be my main reason for treating this as a very important game.
Well, it is, but of course it is, because the international break came at a poor time for us. We were flying, and now we've got to sort of get back up to speed again. And you're right, massive game in the week. But Ian's right too. Like, it's not often that you get a 3:00 game on a Saturday these days. So a massive home game coming back off the international break. Everybody will bang up for it. One, we can't stand Hearts. Two, we've not had football for a little while, real football. And it's a perfect kickoff time for certainly for people in Scotland, not necessarily for me. I'll be at a gig on Saturday night, so I might miss the first half. I'm going to see a WA band called Old Mervs in Fremantle at an outdoor show, probably the biggest show of their career so far. You won't have heard of them. They've got a UK tour coming into next year, I think, but this is probably their biggest show to this point in their career. But I think it's important we continue to keep the pressure on. We had poor results against Hearts last year. We lost to them twice, 2-0 home and away. And obviously there was stuff that happened in both of those games, and I don't foresee it being as taxing as that this time. They're in really poor form, but they have had a week, 10 days together. Not many of their players will have been on international duty, so they'll have had all that time to focus. They're hurting from a bad start. They'll just only have been focused on Celtic. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make it difficult for us for a period. Another early goal will be important. If we can do that, that'll probably break them. But if we play at any kind of the level that we've been at recently, we'll be too strong for them, and I expect another comfortable victory. I think Kasper Schmeichel's on for 5 clean sheets in the league, which I don't think has been done since the early 1900s. I think I'm right in saying that's like 1907, 1908. That kind of time was the last time a Celtic goalkeeper got 5 clean sheets in the start of the season. So that's a big one that he'll have his eye on. But just generally, you're right, Gav, we want to keep the momentum going and get into that game, because that's a massive game in midweek as well. And because of the way the fixtures play out, really important that we win that match.
So here's, we'll talk about that in a second. Here's Mahesh saying Hearts have recruited well. And it's true, they had a good season last year. No doubt about that. And then they were said to have recruited well. Anyway, sorry, I meant to add that. Jan Danda being a player that everybody seems to rate. Blair Spittle, those are their 2 big ones. And you can see some other players there, a couple of Costa Ricans.
Yeah, the Taylor guy.
He got a lot of praise in the first game, didn't he?
Yeah, Vargas has looked decent as well. I think that's the thing, though. I think it's different, and I think, we're used to it because we're used to the rigours of Europe. But those early qualifiers for Hearts and the number of games and the different types of pressures it brings can really derail a team. I think that's why Aberdeen's start is so impressive. Let's see if they start to settle Hearts now that they've not got. They're in the Europa group stages, aren't they? Am I getting that right?
Conference, I think they dropped down to.
Is it the conference? Yeah, so they're in the conference. So I think
they had the opportunity to qualify for Europa, but they had some poor results, and I think they were always guaranteed league football. But I think it's the conference they're in.
I don't think it's going to be an easy start to the season, because I think that'll be a big adjustment for them with the number of games and having to do both. So I would expect it to maybe not get, to get a bit worse before it gets better, and hopefully that's 3:00 on Saturday.
Righty-ho. I really need to go to the toilet, but I'm going to power through here and just clench.
That's supposed to be inner monologue, Gav. Come on.
Really need to go to the toilet, but I'm going to suffer for the benefit of our 547 current viewers. Thank you so much. If you appreciate the fact that I'm clenching indeterminable muscles,
Please don't let the chat look with the word clenching, Gav, given what's been in there.
Oh dear. Okay. How about this then? Regular viewers of the show will know that a few shows ago we talked about what two players are we worried that this is their last season, and we came up with Hatate and Johnson. And Alistair Johnston. That was a bit of a left field choice, although we all thought it at the time. But I see that everywhere now. Everyone's talking about Alistair Johnston and what a great player he's been. And in fact, I've got a little video here I'll play now.
Been an absolutely sensational signing for Celtic. And yes, it follows automatically there will be a concern. Some club down south will need a right back at some point, and Alistair Johnston's stats will be incredible. So if he goes into the Champions League, let's hope this injury isn't too serious. If he plays the way he's been playing and takes that form into the Champions League, it is only a matter of time until somebody comes sniffing, because that's the way it works.
Okay, leaving aside the individuals talking there and what their agendas may be, it's true, isn't it?
I mean, yeah,
Even
anyone who
a
performs
stop
well,
clock's right twice a day, right?
yeah, anyone that performs well for Celtic and performs well in the Champions League is probably going to be in the shop window. I don't think that's like a big leap. I think where AJ is a little bit different, and I don't think it takes too much to colour in the dots, is he was in that team in the tournament for Copa America. Mentally, every interview he gives is pretty good. Is like pretty good in terms of North America. Canada are becoming like a leading team under Jesse Marsh, who plays a good style of football. Brendan plays a good style of football, possession-based, attacking. Everything all about winning, etc. So I think if you're looking at someone, 100%. Alistair Johnston, I don't think it's too much of a leap, and I think it's a good decision to give him a contract. What I would say is, I mean, it's a contract to keep him happy. If someone decent comes in for him in the summer, that contract's going to mean nothing.
Ouija, please don't mention the word stream. That would be helpful. Paul, AJ, do you fear that this is his last season?
There's every chance. I think we expected him to kick on last season, and he didn't really for one reason or another. He picked up a few injuries, and his form was middling. To Andrew Galea's point, I think he didn't have the best of seasons last year. He came onto a bit more of his usual form towards the end of the season, but it was a real mixed season and not uncommon across the whole squad. Really, we weren't great as a team last year, but he started the season like a train, and looked right back into form. Obviously, this knock that he's taken is a bit of a concern, and we hope it doesn't lead to any sort of lengthy delay. It doesn't sound like it will. But yeah, he's another one. He'll be 25, 26, 26, 27. He's coming to that peak time, right? So Tate's of a similar age. If they're going to get a big move to a big league on a bumper contract, it's probably now. It's either now or halfway through next season or next season at the absolute latest. If it doesn't, then they start to probably be diminished in terms of long-term value and stuff. So I would say those two are definitely at risk. To Ian's point, you give them contracts, you keep them happy for now. But if somebody wants to come and pay them twice the salary or more, then they have to give us a big lump of cash to do so. And fingers crossed, it looks like we're now actually going to reinvest that at the level that's required to move us forward. So it's good business to do it. And yeah, I think it depends. Like I don't know what kind of contract, he's probably got 2 or 3 years left on it. If you bump that to 4 or 5 and somebody wants to take him, then that's where the big money comes from. So yeah, it's a concern, but everyone's got the price. We know that. So I'd be less concerned about losing it. Bizarrely, he's a top performer, but I feel like we'll find another right back more easily than say you lose Kyogo or Matt O'Reilly was a tough one. Cameron Carter-Vickers. There are bigger players in the squad to lose that would concern me more right now than necessarily AJ.
Although you say that, Paul, but I think if we talk about the stats, and I can't remember where I did see it, but I think in terms of like chance creation, I think AJ's like number 2 in the squad in terms of like the over the last 6 months in terms of chances created, or like one of these stats that make him critical to the way we play. So, I think if we did lose him, I think it's a critical one to replace, because someone mentioned Taylor. Taylor isn't that far behind in the other side in terms of the way we play and the chances we create. And Taylor should be one that I think we should be looking to tie down on a long-term contract as well.
I think
Yeah,
the
just
head was
like to
actually saying that
clarify-
his stats were marginally higher than AJ's, but only just.
It's a number 1 that I need to do, everyone. So you can drop the poo emojis. That's
It's because you said clench. Like people just assume you're
no, but
keeping the
clenching.
cheeks closed.
The Kegel kind of muscles, whatever the male equivalent of Kegels are. So, alrighty then. It's on to social media time then. Before we do that, I'd like to point out that the Hearts game, there will be a drink along. Our usual suspects of Dano and Kaiser, who's in the comments, will be doing a drink along for the Hearts game. So if you need company, please join them.
Can I also say as well, just whilst we're on that, because you've mentioned Kaiser always does it, so I'll fill in for him here. If you're watching this now and you like it and you enjoy our patter, like and subscribe, please. Like and subscribe.
Even if you think we're talking pish, thank you, Paddy, for that.
Yeah, especially if we're talking pish.
Especially
like
for
and
mentioning
subscribe.
pish. Okay, we're on to social media. I'm just going to add this. It's apropos of nothing much. What's it apropos of? Oh, well, I could tell you this. Last week we were recommended by our viewers that we need a refresh of the individuals involved, and I said there was work going on behind the scenes. So there are a couple of new players that we're going to debut in the coming weeks. That's exciting, isn't it, guys? Additions to the team. Keep you on your toes. I think we need some more challenging for positions within the Celtic world squad. Some of you are a bit too comfortable, Paul.
Don't know what you mean. I'll
Think
keep
you're
bringing my
HQ.
A game. That's okay.
Yeah.
That was more
You're
Philip
welcome.
Clement
Welcome.
than Brendan Rodgers, to be honest, Gav.
Say again?
That was more Philip Clement than Brendan Rodgers, that motivational talk.
Yeah, not great.
Okay, so I'll mark that down. Ian, first to
There you
go.
go.
First off the team sheet.
There's no way Ian will be off the team sheet bringing 400 bloody viewers to the live stream. You'll be in there every week, mate.
You wait till I descend into right-wing nonsense, and then we'll see how long it lasts.
If you keep coming on, we'll have a boiler advert in no time.
576 people watching live. So what's it going to be like when new people join us? Will it be a bit like this?
Well, we have a new member of Sarcasmaholics Anonymous this week. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everybody, my name's Scott and I'm a sarcasmaholic. No, I've finally admitted it to myself. I've got a sarcasm problem.
Well, Scott, I'm sure we're all really, really looking forward to hearing your story.
Oh, thanks for... Sorry, was that sarcasm?
Sarcasm? No.
Are you a sarcasmaholic yourself?
No, I just help mediate the group.
Okay.
Yeah, I just get up every Tuesday night in my life to help these screw-ups for the good of my health.
Right, alright, there's no need to be sarcastic. Right, I'm just having a wee bit of trouble telling when people are being sarcastic and when they...
No. Really? Wouldn't you have noticed?
No, it's quite hard. We're just being sarcastic there.
No.
Great show that, you got to say. What are those guys doing these days? Anybody know? You still see
I
them?
think they're right, and I think Rab Florence is still pretty active in Twitter and writing. He seems to be doing that sort of stuff. Not sure about the other guy, but I think maybe the days of that comedy is maybe left, because I don't think it gets funded as much, and some of it was like a bit, I don't know if anyone remembers like the Burniston Butcher and things like that. The guy that had his face taped up, and yeah, a lot of great ones for that. But I think maybe the time for that's a bit gone.
I think was the guy in Double Denim, the guy who's playing Rebus in that reboot. I think it was.
Yeah.
Is he's
Double Denim?
There was a guy. There was one of the guys being sarcastic was wearing double denim. He had the kind of big spiky hair.
Oh,
I think it was the guy Rankin. He's called Rankin as well. I can't remember his first name. I think coincidentally, obviously, in Rankin books. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the guy who was playing the Rebus character in the new reboot, which I recently enjoyed.
Okay, here is Fitbad tweets, which is a common choice for you, Paul. Do you want to talk us through this?
It is. This is just obviously in International Week. A quick, is it Saturday yet? With now I couldn't work out all of these, but you get most of them.
Give it a go.
Well, it confused me initially because it's got a mix of leagues. So I think that's Haaland on the left.
Yeah,
I think that's Shinnie, Kyogo. I have no idea who the guy in the
who's the
middle is.
second one? Shinnie?
I think it's Shinnie.
I thought that might be Bruno Fernandes.
That's who I thought it was.
Be. Yeah, it could be. He does shoot at Shinnie like that with the big nose as well, so I don't know. John McGinn, Cal McGregor. I thought that might be Shankland with a 5 head. The two in the middle have got me stumped for now. Obviously, a big brute for either Newcastle or St Mirren.
Isn't that the St Mirren Gogic? Is that not Gogic?
It could be, yeah. Could be Gogic, unless Newcastle have got a big brute.
Who's the ginger face?
I don't know. See, if that was a Celtic top, you'd think it was Scales, but
we've got Monty saying it. We've got Monty saying it's Campbell, but that's not a Blackburn shirt, so I don't think it is.
No, can it be Campbell?
But
any other ideas, people in the comments? We don't know who Gingerface is, and we don't know who this is, do we?
I think that's Shankland.
Yeah, because the big forehead.
Because he's got the massive forehead, yeah.
Oh, big forehead, and then John McGinn's big ass.
John McGinn with the big ass, yeah. And the rest, I think we've pretty much got. But yeah, potentially the old, Lions mane ginger. I don't know what that is. So yeah, but I thought it was just point. I thought it was very on point to say is it Saturday yet because we've all been suffering through the international break.
We have been suffering, and to close out the show, a little bit of humor here. This is AI needs to be shut down because everyone's turned into Messi in this 80s disco.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
It's hilarious. Everyone's Messi.
That's the kind of stuff AI should be used for. It's absolute class.
Depeche Mode Messi.
Thing is, this is actually a decent enough standard. Someone has spent a fair wedge of time in that, and fair play to them. Like, wherever they are, they're getting their credit for it because it's a good one. That one. 590
people in. That's good going. You got to be happy with that.
If you're not already subscribed, chuck us a like, chuck us a subscription, bump the numbers. There we go.
It's only our second season. You hear everyone saying that, don't you, on Celtic YouTube? It's like trying to get up to 50,000 and things like that. Well, we're only trying to get up to 2,000. So come on. Your click means a lot. It's a lot more significant than joining a heaving mass of 50,000. You can still say you were in on the early days of a Celtic World when they just had 1,000 and something. That was the day I clicked.
The day that Gav nearly pushed himself. That's the day that you clicked.
Yeah, no, it seems to have subsided a little bit, and my feet aren't dripping or anything. I think I've pushed through just for you guys. That was nice of me, wasn't it? Any closing thoughts, guys, before we finish the show?
Just looking forward to Real Fitba being back.
Yeah, wish everyone a good weekend, and 3 points, good performance, no injuries, and it would be nice if that top 3 was the same top 3 come like 9 o'clock on a Sunday. So that's a little extra. Let's hope for that. Let's all 597 of us will it into existence.
I don't think it'd take much for them to struggle at Tannadice, so we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, look, if you want to have some company during the game, we'll be on doing the drink along. At least 2 of us will. And I'm going to KL for a few days, so I won't be on next week. It also means that on Saturday night, I might be watching the game in the KL Celtic Supporters Club with David, who I've never met in real life. So it'll be fun to, We
need a height comparison photo, Gav.
Yeah, I think David's not going to come off too well in that. But he seems to quite like standing beside tall men. and having his photograph taken. He seems to enjoy that. So we'll do that. That's a bit bizarre, but it'll be fun to see him.
Working it.
Hopefully that'll happen. And standing in for me next week will be Stephen on Monday and Paul on Thursday. So good luck with that.
Yep.
See, it's a Celtic world. We share out all the duties. 596. Come on, make it to 600 before I play the closing credits. Come on, you can do it. Somebody. 597, 599. Come on.
Everyone's going to go now because to be fair, I would just jump off just to scuff
Yeah,
it.
just,
on,
just
no.
go for it. Just
That's
600
exactly
and then I'll play the outro. 600. Let me say it,
While we're
baby.
faffing about here, Gav, I saw quite a few requests for the old sing-alongs to come back.
They'll come
You
back.
seem to try to professionalize us a bit and moved away from the silly songs, but I'm going to add weight to the voices that have been in the comments and say, when are the songs coming back?
The songs will come back. Don't you worry about that. 598. Okay, I'm going to close the show before it starts going down too much. That's depressing. All right, lads. Well done. See you on the next one. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Hail, hail.